Hi, welcome to this session using SuperCore in Grid for iPad. My name is Kerry from Smartbox and I'm the Training and Implementation Manager, and I'm going to be taking you through our SuperCore vocabulary on the iPad Grid for iPad app. Okay, so this is Grid Explorer in Grid for iPad, and for those of you that also use Grid 3, you'll notice that it's very similar. The idea is that the transition between the two is really easy. We're going to be looking at our SuperCore vocabulary. Now, SuperCore is a core-based vocabulary, so when I'm talking about core, I'm meaning the 80% of language that we use most of the time in most of our conversation. And you can see that it comes in 3 different sizes. So we've got SuperCore Learning Grids, which come in 12 and 20 cells, for those users who are really just starting out with taking their first steps into AAC and might also be developing their access method at the same time. And then we move up into SuperCore 30 and SuperCore 50. Now 50 and 30 have the same vocabulary within them, but we've obviously just got a different number of cells depending on how many you need to access on the page. So we're going to take a look at SuperCore 50. Now what you can see in front of you is our home grid on SuperCore 50, and SuperCore provides us with loads of that rich core vocabulary which allows us to create most of our messages and most of our sentences from the top page. So I could be someone who is perhaps at the 1 or 2 word level, so I could say
Like.
I like something, or like
It.
or I could be somebody who might be simply at the 1 word level and just wants to say
Stop.
But it provides me not only with access to the language, but with exposure to new words that I might not have learnt yet and that I'm going to be working towards. So I could eventually I would be able to build sentences, so I might want to say
I want to go to the
I want to go to the, and I'm going to dip into places and select
garden.
I want to go to the garden. So all of that is done from my top page, so I'm not having to navigate in and out different pages to construct my message. Okay. So just to give you a quick overview of what you can see, we've got the yellow cells, which are our people cells, the green cells are our action cells, and the blue cells are our describing cells, and then the little words are the pale grey ones that you can see in the middle. Across the top you've got 5 purple cells, and those are our useful next word cells. So as I type, they will start to suggest a word that's going to be useful for me to build my message. So
I want it.
Okay, you can see how that changes for me, so it provides me extra scaffolding to build my message. Down the bottom where the plus cells are, that's where we've got your extended core vocabulary. So I can go to more people, more actions, more describing words, and if I go into more people, you can see that I've got a whole host of people words in here, and also opportunities to add in the names of people that I know. So I've got a space there to put your own name, and then down the right hand side I've got options to put family, friends, and if I go onto that page I can then add those into my vocabulary. So back on the home page. The 2 right-hand columns in SuperCore, what we call dynamic columns, and these allow us to access a whole range of different vocabulary. The top cells, daily and play, are our context-specific language, and they link with the learning grids that we saw that I mentioned at the start. So the daily and play, if I select daily, what you can see is that my core vocabulary isn't changing, so I've still got access to that core vocabulary. But on the right hand side, I'm now going to have language for things like toileting, cooking, and I'm going to go into sleeping. So again, the core's not changed, but I've got words now that I can use quickly in a context. Now, having Grid for iPad on the iPad is great for modelling. It's really portable, and it means that if I'm at bedtime and we're going to be talking about going to bed, my user might say story. They might say that they want a story. So I would be able to model to them either on their iPad, or if I've got a copy of it on my iPad, and I could be saying You want a story. So I'm modelling not only the word that they've used, but the next level of where I want them to go. And on an iPad, it's really quick and easy just to be able to model wherever you are, wherever we've got the iPad with us. The dynamic columns also give us some phrases on the top right, which link to the language that we've just looked at. So if you look where story was, it now says bedtime story.
Can I have a bedtime story?
And it says, can I have a bedtime story? So I'm going to clear this and go back to the home page. There's lots of different bits to look at in the dynamic columns, but if you weren't sure where to start, the daily and play would be where we'd recommend, because that's that context-specific language which we're going to be using in lots of different situations. Further down, you can see that we've got topics. So topics are where we find our nouns, which are on specific topics, so like space, food, clothes, technology, all sorts of different words in there. And these are where I can edit and add more vocabulary if I want to. So if I go into space, you can see all of the topic pages look the same, they're colour coded the same. The most commonly used words are going to be on the top left hand side, but it's really easy to edit these as well. So if I use the three dots on the top right hand side and select edit grids, it will take Grid for iPad into what's known as edit mode. I'm going to select the cell I want, so I'm going to pick the one under telescope. I'm going to have a write and speak cell, and we're going to have the word observatory. It's picked the symbol and I'm happy with that one. So I'm going to select done, finished editing, and then it will save that into my grid set really easily, and that's now added. So you can see adding language in Grid for iPad is really simple and really quick. Something that's quite important is obviously to be able to progress, and we've made an update to Supercore this week, which I'm going to share with you now. So on the top left hand side you can see the magic wand cell. The magic wand gives you access to word endings and be able to support grammar within sentence construction. It also gives us access to things like settings. If I go into settings, and on the bottom right you can see change vocabulary, what I can do now is change from the child to the teen and adult vocabulary. So I get some information about what's different in this vocabulary, and then I can select start. Now the important thing here for our users, particularly who are moving between the child and adult vocabulary, is that you can see that it actually doesn't look any different. The extended core, when I go into the plus cells, is also the same. So if I make any changes or any personalizations, they are all going to transition across with me. If you look in the dynamic columns on the right hand side, you can see that now daily and play has been changed to daily life and leisure. And this is important because it's language that's specific for the teen and adult group. If I select daily life, we've added things like accessibility and scheduling to make it more around independence and issues that they're going to need to communicate around. If I still go into sleeping, for example, I've still got that same language that I'm familiar with that I've already used within the child version, but if I go into phrases, it's changed slightly. So instead of having phrases that live under the cell, now I've got phrases that I can access at any time within any of those different contexts, and I can access with any different context, and I can also really quickly add and delete phrases, so I can personalize it and make it specific to my needs. I'm going to jump home. There's new topics been added. So if I go into the topics grid here, you can see that we've got things on the bottom like swearing and slang, relationships, social care. We've also added things like politics. So there's more topics available within the teen and adult version which are going to be relevant for that particular age group. But again, editing it will be done in exactly the same way. You can see that observatory is still there from when I added it in the child version. It's come across with me. So there's lots of different things that we can look at. Finally, the thing that I just wanted to draw your attention to within Supercore, which wasn't included previously, back on the Magic Wand page, are apps. So if I go into apps on Grid for iPad, our users can now access the camera, they can talk to Alexa, and they can make notes within Grid for iPad, which again allows them more independence and ways to use their communication in different ways. If I jump back, you can see on the right hand side where it says share. If I've written a message, I can select share and it gives me the option to save it as a note. So a really quick jump to do that. There we go, back on the home page. So that was a really quick tour of Supercore in Grid for iPad, and I hope that you found that useful. There's so much to explore within it, and as I've said, the advantage of it being on an iPad is that it's portable, it's really easy to use for modelling, to use in any different situation and context, and for whatever level our users are at, it provides us with the opportunity to build on language and develop our AAC. Very quickly, if I go back to Grid Explorer, I'm just going to show you what the learning grids look like. So you can see for some users who might be just starting out what it looks like. We go into Child and into Start, and we'll go into 20 cells. I'll go back into Sleeping. Here you can see that I've got the language that we already looked at in the dynamic columns in Supercore 50, and on the left hand side the two columns there are giving me the beginnings of core vocabulary, so it's a very early AAC grid. Okay, and that is it for today. So it feels like it was a bit of a whistle stop tour, but hopefully you've been able to pick up some bits from there. You can download Grid for iPads and have a play with it. There's a trial version of it, and for purchasing you can do an outright purchase, or we also do a subscription model. If you want to get in touch with us and have a conversation and find out more, if you've got any questions, you can go to our website. We have a Facebook page, and also you can email us at hello@thinksmartbox. Okay, so thanks very much, and hope you enjoy the rest of the exhibition. Take care.